Hello there, welcome back to Brighton. We are going to start our fourth season here. Last season we pulled a win in the league, didn't win any other silverware really, but it was a really good season, and we're going to be looking to building on that this year. Now we're going to have a bunch of players that we're going to be trying to sell, Heddle. We're going to have a bunch of players coming back from loans that we're going to be trying to sell. So the end goal here is going to be to probably sell Simon, Weber again. We'll see who we get to sell out of our. We're going to basically be selling 2 out of 3 of Idle, Heddle, Weber again, Simon. Basically, Presses as our main goalie. Probably going to be trying to sell De La Cruz, Baleba, Linga, Magno, Torres, and Sarmiento as well. They don't really fit into the plans there, and the money that we get from selling them could potentially help with strengthening the squad. So that's going to be the play. As we did last year, the goal here is going to be defend, kind of strengthening the central defense here, center backs, and maybe another top midfielder we'll have to see, or winger. Depends on what we can get our hands on. We do have a decent chunk of transfer budget here, 58 million, and as you might expect, if we can sell the players that are coming in from loans, then we could probably end up with a transfer budget close to maybe even 200 million. So we actually have a decent chunk of money here that we could potentially play with. Now, we do also have some players coming in. Galeto here, who is a wing talent, potential 4 stars, already have decent finishing, dribbling, first touches, crossing, passing technique. He's already really good for his age. So we'll be trying to kind of raise him into that winger duty. Douglas Duff is a defender, a left back, and he too is already rather good. Has probably one of the highest star rating potentials that we've seen, 4.5 golden stars. So we'll be bringing him in as the future left back. And Ian Price here is kind of probably someone that I shouldn't have spent as much money on, mainly because he is a casual personality, and as a result, he might actually struggle to develop. So we'll have to see if he develops or not. If not, we'll just loan him out. But I decided to gamble on him purely based on his potential ability here being as high as it is. But for now, those are the 3 talents that are going to be coming in this season. So we'll get started on the transfer window here. We'll see what we can bring in, who we sell, what the kind of transfer we actually get involved in. But hopefully, come the start of the season, in what would it be here? Can't actually see it yet. But come the start of the season, we will be hopefully with a stronger squad here. Let's just say it like that. So I'll get started on that. Let's see how we do. Our schedule and our friendlies now has been made public. As you can see, we're facing Nottingham Forest in Community Shield. They did win the FA Cup, surprisingly enough. But we are starting our season this year against them in the Community Shield. And Liverpool and City are also our opponents here fairly early. But friendly-wise, we've done fairly well here. Won all of them. Can't really complain about that. And on the transfer front, we are currently looking at bringing in Lay, who is another Brazilian talent who is fairly decent already, high potential. We're looking at bringing in Scalvini for 75 million, which is probably a bit of a huge chunk of money, but he would be a incredibly strengthening of our defense, and he's also very young at just 22 years old, so definitely worth it, I feel. I'm a little bit on the fence here about Tommy Yasu. He is basically back cover. He can play both wing backs, but I feel like he might be a little bit on the expensive side, so I'm a little bit uncertain. He's also 27 years old, but he could be a good pickup for us. We'll have to see how that ends up. So there are some options here on what we're going to be doing. And as you can see, a transfer budget remaining is 211 million. So we've sold quite a bunch of players here, and we also brought in some players pretty cheap. So let's start with where we left off. Ian Price, the last buy. We brought in Stephen Jones and Mark Turner. Both of these are talents. Stephen Jones is a central defender that we brought in. He is again pretty good. 17 tackling, 13 marking, 13 heading, positioning, bravery, anticipation, aggression. Well, aggression isn't necessarily good. He is a little bit lacking in the jumping reach, but I think we can get that up there hopefully. And if he develops well, he could become an incredibly good centre back for us. So I feel like that is a good deal. Mark Turner is the other one. He became unsettled after we put in a bid. He was when we tried to negotiate for him earlier, we had to pay around 30 to 40 million. I felt that that was a little bit too much, but he became unsettled, and then Everton agreed to a deal for around 20 million. So he is the other back that we brought in here. And if he too develops well, he's going to be amazing. Lacking a little bit in the crossing and dribbling there to be a proper wing back. But defensively, he is pretty good. And he also has decent physicals. Lacking a little bit on the mental side, but worst case scenario, we can just retrain him, or he's already a natural here as a central defender. So he does also add some versatility to the squad. Not a bad, not a bad deal at all. Now, in terms of who we've sold, we have released a bunch of players again on loan, but that was last season. They've now come back. Let's see if we can figure out where we're at right now. There we are, Alderete. We have sold him in January. Yes, here we are. So the only one we really sold this summer. It's just such a long list. I really wish this would just, go from 1st of June rather than anything else. But we have sold Arno Martinez here to Newcastle for 27 million with a potential cost of 37. So I feel like that is a decent deal. He's become kind of surplus to requirements here since we brought in both Patterson, but also I do want to raise the talent. And he does have limited potential, so I feel like that was actually a pretty good deal for us. Now, other deals here, we brought in 2 players on free transfer from from Al Hilal for one, Milinkovic Savic, who is actually a really good midfielder. You can see it here, decent stats still. He is 31 years old, 20 natural fitness, so he should be able to again fill in that midfield really well. He's better than Vetlesen, Smith Rowe there, so kind of agree with that. The big thing here too is also he's going to bring in basically his salary in, well, not really, close to his salary in extra merchandising costs or income. So what I'm thinking is that we might try and sell him in a year, see if we can make some money of him, because he does have high value, and if he doesn't degrade too much over the course of this year, he could become a very good investment. Another player we brought in on, excuse me, hiccups, free transfer is Luis Felipe. He came from, oh, that's the wrong place. He came from Al Ittihad, 2 on a free transfer. And honestly, I'm very happy that we picked him up. He's a squad player, defensive option. Again, free transfer. We can probably make some money of selling him. He's also on the older side. But he does fit in as a good squad option for now, I feel. And again, the fact that we got both of them for free so far is quite amazing. Now, in terms of the players that we've sold, we have sold Nicolas de la Cruz to PSV. Unfortunately, not for anything massive, but it is what it is. We'll agree to that deal. Baleba here, we have sold to Wolves for pretty cheap, but we have a clause that we get 40% of his next sale. Potentially there we could make a little bit more of him. Still pretty cheap, but again, at this point, I just want these players out of the budget, so to speak, so we can actually start making some choices, using the money. Doig here became surplus to requirements. He went to Al Ali, 150k per week now. He definitely transferred up. He would be a really good, squad option, but he is just not playing enough games for that. And with a talent now that is a little bit off him, let's be honest here, but that I want to kind of raise in the team, just kind of had to go. We got 25 million for him. That is pretty much a incredibly good deal. If you consider that he went from 7 and 25 to 25 over the course of just a season. Magno has left for Newcastle. Nothing too special there. 40 million. Very happy with that. Simon has gone to Juventus. 24 million with a potential 30 million cost total. Hedl went to Fenerbahce. 23.5. Sarmiento, 6.5 to Benfica. No one wanted this guy, so I'm actually just really happy that we got him kind of out of the squad, out of the budget, if you will. And Facundo Torres here is currently at loan as PSV, but that loan contract has an optional fee of 46 million. I don't expect them to, trigger it, but it is in the contract, and potentially here we could end up earning some more money again. But as you can see, currently 181 million in transfers out. We brought in two decent players here for basically free. And as I've said, we are trying to get some better players in Scalvini and maybe Tomiyasu. But we'll have to see what else we strengthen over the course of this summer. We'll have to see. We have money. I'm not planning to throw this money away because if we play things carefully, we probably can still challenge for the Premier League, even with a little bit of a lacking squad compared to our opponents. But it would basically mean that we're going to have to prioritize the league over, say, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, things like that, which I have been doing. So we'll see how that plays out. But for now, Scalvini is really the only one that I'm certain that we're going to be picking up. Same here with Lay. He's actually a really good target. So that is where we're at in the current situation. We have also brought in here Aswell, Maximiliano Aswell, who's another good, extremely good talent on the wing. 14, 15, 13, 15, 15, 14, 15, and decent physicals to match up with that. So he's already a squad player option once he comes in on the 17th of August. So he'll be coming in this transfer window the day he turns 18. So even with that, he's probably going to be a very good option. He's also fairly cheap. We paid 5.8 million, I believe, because of a clause. So I'm very, very happy with how this transfer window gone so far. Again, we have gotten a decent strengthening of the squad in Luis Felipe and Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. But we'll have to see how we do with the rest of the squad here with Naipan, Lewis Skelly, who was a wrong buy, as I said, has actually developed far better than I gave him credit for. We brought him in for 1.4 million. We sent him out to Millwall, and now he's actually developed into a potential squad option here. So we'll see what we do with him. If we loan him out again, if we kind of sell him, try and get cash in. But both Naipan and Lewis Skelly, I think we're going to be either loaning them out this year because I want to try and develop potentially some higher potential talent. But we'll have to see, of course, if they bloom, if they can make that talent count. But we have a very, very interesting squad. Probably a little bit overfilled it with talent. Danny Clark is probably going to get loaned out for his development, since we now have potentially 3 right defenders. Turner is the better talent of the two, and I'm actually impressed with the amount of Scottish talent that we've seen here. Both Duff and Turner are actually Scottish. We're going to have probably a Scottish national team wing backs in the future. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting a couple more transfers in. I probably am going to loan out Mitchell too. I feel like Asebel in particular, Estevao, Galeto, we have a lot of options now on that left wing. So I think Mitchell will be loaned out to a different team to kind of keep his progress going. But again, I'm a little bit unsure how we're going to do it with the loans. But loans are definitely looking to be the best option for helping a lot of these players grow. But we'll have to see how many we keep, how many we loan out. I'm still a little bit uncertain on the specifics of that, let's put it like that. But now, though, we're going to get this first month done. We have, as I said, nothing in Forest and Community Shield. We have 4 league games, and then the transfer window should be closing by the time the third cup and the Carabao Cup comes around. And I'm looking forward to seeing how our team looks by the time we get there. So let's get to developing our team. We are now on the 2nd of September. We have gotten all our transfers done. We didn't actually bring in anyone, super good here. We brought in Scalvini, as we intended, for 75 million. We brought in Asebal, kind of what we expected. And we also brought in Szymanski, another midfield option. And he is pretty decent. He is a little bit on the older side, though, so we'll have to see exactly what we do with him. He might too be just one of those guys that we flip, because we did get him in for pretty cheap. Well, 28 million isn't really pretty cheap, but we did get him in for a kind of cheap sum. Unfortunately, every other transfer we kind of tried did fall apart, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Now, we did end up loaning out Mitchell, Clark, and Naipan, kind of what we expected. Naipan actually went to Benfica, and they came with a pretty tempting deal for me here. As you can see, 66 million optional future fee. So with also a playing monthly fee and the unused monthly fee of this much, basically, I think this is a good deal. If we sell him, we sell him. But at the same time, we could potentially get 10 million here in a loan fee before we get the future fee here, the optional one. It's 30 million to begin with, and then I think it's another 30 million over installments, something like that. But it's still a huge chunk of money if we do end up selling him. And as I said here, he is kind of not really working out too well for us. He could be a good squad option, don't get me wrong, but we are currently fetching players that are better. So it's probably not the best way of doing things in my honest opinion, but it is how we've elected to do this. And as I said, getting 10.5 million potential, we're probably going to get around 5 million instead, just as a loan fee over this season. It's going to be pretty good. If we could keep loading him out for 10 million a year for the rest of his career, that would be actually quite amazing. But yeah, that is what we've opted to do here. In terms of future transfers, we did get Lay. Again, going to come in January. He's another attacking midfielder talent though, but he is pretty good. And as you can see from the reports here, we might have a little bit of trouble with his adaptability, but the potential is high enough that I'm willing to take that risk for just 7 million. Consistent, ambitious, kind of should still be able to develop, fit in the quadruple squad. So I think he's still a good choice. We've actually brought in another player from that same club, and that's João Paulo, who is actually an potentially incredibly talented goalie, 4.5 stars, kind of in that same realm as Restes. So once he comes in January, I'm thinking we're going to gamble on letting Verbruggen go, make Paulo our second goalie, and kind of try and develop him alongside Restes. They're going to be pretty close in the years, so it's not really the best thing to do from a perspective from a talent perspective to have two goalies close in the years, but we might just end up loaning him out for his development, and that should be good. So currently, I think we did okay during this transfer window. We still have a huge chunk of money, over 100 million. So we might end up seeing how this team performs towards January, and then make some changes, buy some new players depending on that. And as you can see here, Bove currently has offers made from Newcastle and Chelsea, 48.5 million. We are going to go ahead and accept these. There's just no reason not to. He has kind of, as you can see here, he is a model citizen. He works hard for the team, fits doing well, but even if you use him as a squad player, we just have so many other better options that it's kind of I can't justify keeping him. He's performed well this season, but if we take a look at the other seasons where he's been here, his performances have been 6.9, basically 6.9 and below. So I'm thinking we're going to cash in on him before we get basically a problem here with the midfield being swamped with players, because it already is. We have Neves, we have Gray here, who is probably going to develop into a good player, I would hope. We have Lewis Skelly, who could potentially play here. And let's face it, Smitrove, Szymanski, both of them can play midfielders as well if we need to. And while we have a lot of AMLs, which was actually noted in an earlier video, well, we have a lot of players that can play that left midfield or play the same position. They're actually better in other positions, like Scalvini here. It might tell you that he's a very good defensive midfielder, and he is, don't get me wrong, but he's also a very good central defender. But in the event that we, say, switch to a more defensive layout, where we use a defensive midfielder as a halfback with two midfielders in front of him, he could really, really shine there too. So he's been a very, very good pickup here. But yeah, let's have a quick look here before we go on how the games have gone for this first month. We did beat Nottingham Forest in Community Shield. We kind of hammered them. Nothing too surprising there. 33-1 in the shot difference. So team is doing incredibly well to start with. Milinkovic Savic got his first game. Same with Scalvini and Luis Felipe. But yeah, we kind of hammered them into submission. They got a very early red card that made it even harder for them. Then we had a little bit of shaky start against Tottenham. Nothing too major, but it was probably a game that should at least have been a draw, if not gone in Tottenham's favour. So we got saved here by Edo, putting in a goal. Fulham, Liverpool, City, kind of pretty straightforward. Fulham, we deserved to win. This was basically a deserved draw. I believe Manchester City kind of deserved to win this one. Yeah, but we managed to eke it out. We actually had Patterson get a red card after 25 minutes, so that made it really, really rough. But we managed to eke out a win there on a day where we really, really shouldn't. So that is looking very, very promising for this year's tournament. In terms of the UEFA Champions League here, we're playing Ajax, Legia, Rangers, PSG, Cervena Zvezda, Bilbao, and Feyenoord and Madrid. So hopefully we can have a good league phase here, but particularly PSG, Real Madrid are probably going to be tough customers. Same can be said for probably Athletic here, potentially Ajax. But we'll do our best here to make sure that we don't get completely destroyed, I guess. So let's see how this first half of the season goes. We're going to power through, basically. I spent a little bit too much time here now in the beginning. So we'll be focusing on getting through this first half in a quite rapid manner, I think. Let's see how we do. We are now in October, and we've gone and raided Girona's huge setup here. We picked up Texas, who's an interesting fellow, but he too is a central defender talent. Can also play defensive midfielder. He might have some problems with adaptability, is susceptible to injuries, but I think he could be a potentially also a really good talent. We also have Antonio Ortiz, who is another interesting one. He probably has a little bit too many positions that he can play at once, but he does already have some decent stats. He does have some high potential, but he too might have adaptability issues. But I think we can bring these players in. Worst case scenario, if they flop, we can probably still make a decent chunk of money on them, which is why we are bringing them in. But Girona does actually have another player too that I am kind of interested in picking up, and I think it was Teixeira. No, there was someone else, but we'll have a look at them later on. Because with these four players now that I'm bringing in, Lay, João Paulo, Texas, and Ortiz, we aren't actually allowed to sign any more under 18 players, or under 21 is the actual term, players from overseas or abroad this season. So I've kind of filled up the allocation there. So I'm not going to be going over the limit until we get these players in. All of them come in January. And then I'm going to have a look and see if we are allowed to sign any more. But there is potentially another good talent at Girona, so I'm kind of nabbing their golden generation here. And as you can see, Bove agreed to go to Newcastle for 48.5 million, and he will be going in January. He hasn't really played much of anything since the signing became a thing. And in terms of our performance here, we've done okay, I would argue. We did beat Coventry Carabao, then we beat Brentford, then we had a stumble, I guess you could say, against Ajax, but it was completely deserved that they pummeled us. They even missed a penalty, so it could have been even worse. But this was a pretty bad game for us. I did try and play Galletto. Turner did well in his position here. They played Jones, so probably risked it a little bit too much with the youngsters here and got punished as a result. We then had kind of the same thing happen against West Ham. Probably played Price, which was probably a terrible idea. I thought we could survive with two, but I guess Price here in central was a little bit too much of a gamble. Should probably have moved him out to the side instead to give him some play time. But as you can see here, West Ham surprised us a little bit, and that is a necessary loss, I guess you could say. At least we came back by beating Legia and then Norwich, so it's not all bad. I'll be honest. It's still pretty okay, and we did have a little bit of a break here, almost a full month from the Norwich game to the Sheffield United game. So at least the team should be rested now once we go into October. But yeah, it's been a decent season so far, but we've had a couple of stumbles, but that is kind of what we have gotten used to. We have some stumbles, we have a good comeback, and then we kind of stabilize. So I'm hoping that we are going to be able to do that. We have United, we have Crystal Palace, who's our rivals to face next month. So I do have a hope that we've stabilized, but we'll have to wait and see how this goes. So I managed to mess up and record the wrong screen. Hence, we're in December now, at the end of the month, end of the year, and we are currently 4 points ahead of Arsenal in the league. Liverpool third. City has had a pretty miserable season so far, which has been a little bit surprising. But uh, it's nothing we really can, nothing too surprising, honestly. It happens. There are slumps in this game. They can sometimes hit really, really hard. But we've done, I would argue, fairly well. Remember last time we were here, we were Norwich here. We won every game in October pretty confidently. We drew against PSG, won the rest of the games. We have had a pretty nasty December, though. We did beat Arsenal before drawing against Chelsea, won against Athletic, lost against Everton. I kind of did focus more against on the Champions League game here than I did the Premier game. Probably got punished due to that. United, Sunderland, Brentford beat all of these Carabao Cup quarterfinal. We're now in the semis. And as you can see, we did lose against Villa. We drew against Newcastle. These two have kind of been our nemesis, so I probably should have a closer look at their strategies and kind of counter strat a little bit more. I think that would benefit us in the future, but we'll have to see if I can actually pull that off. In the Champions League phase here, we have made it to at least playoff. We have a couple more games, but we did recover after that miserable start against Ajax. We only drew against PSG. Now we do have another game against Real Madrid ahead of us, but if we beat Feyenoord, I think we should be basically through without too much of concern. And we are facing Arsenal in the Carabao Cup, Sheffield United versus Villa in the other one. So if we beat Arsenal, I do fear that we're going to be facing Villa, and they're just gonna destroy us again. But we'll have to see what we can do with that. Fleetwood in the FA Cup should be simple enough. And with the again a Premier League that is kind of weird, I guess I could say. Liverpool, Arsenal, both of them have done well. We've only lost 3 games. We've only drawn 3 games. We could potentially see another title here back to back, provided of course that we do make our way out of this slump, which I think should be doable. Fulham, I have every faith in the world that we're going to be beating them pretty handedly here. But yeah, that is the first half of the season, gone pretty well. Honestly, we've had a few injuries like the dislocated shoulder here, but nothing too serious this time around, which has made the season even better. And in terms of the youth intake that I kind of did almost forget about here, we are having an attacking midfielder we should keep a very close eye on, and 2 forwards who are considered to be fine prospects alongside a good intake, potentially. So I'm looking forward to this year's intake. Could be very good, but we could also end up now in a situation where we're overloaded with attacking talents because we have a ton of them already. If we say go for potential here, Shaun Evans is still our best potential player, but we have Galletto, we have Price, we have Aswell, Duff. This guy's actually a wingback though, so he's kind of lying to you about where his talents lie. It's just that he's potentially more skilled at the moment as a winger rather than a wingback. But yeah, that's kind of an interesting one. But as I said, we have a few too many talents that might be focused on attackers. So we might end up loaning a few players out. We'll have to see. But the most interesting part here is Archie Gray, who was rated as a 3-star before this season now, has become a 4.5-star. He's world class. He's unlikely to improve, but he's become rather good, honestly. And if we look at the progress here, you can see that start of the season, 3-star. Then he had a jump in October, another jump now in December, and he has actually developed fairly well. If we take a look at his attributes over the last 12 months, he's only gotten a point in stamina and marking, but he has still developed his attributes here. You can see that he has quite a sharp jump here in most of them. So he's actually developed fairly well since he's 19 years old in this team, so I'm happy for him, honestly. I don't know if I trust these numbers completely. Excuse me. But he has developed very, very nicely. Now, Galeto is another one that is interesting. He too is already developing very, very nicely here. Training is working for him. We've given him a just 4 stars so far in the Premier League, but 7 stars total. So he's given some playtime that is helping him. Of course, he could probably have had more playtime, but he's also been given 23 stars in the under 21 league. A lot of these guys are getting also under 21 playtime while playing for the main team. And I think that is a fairly decent way of developing them, particularly in this first season where they are already struggling with adaptability. We're seeing that with Puentes somewhat. He did come in January, so he's been here for a year now. He's not really performing super well or anything like that, but we'll have to see what we can do for him. If we might loan him out to try and give him some more experience. Turner has actually done fairly well too. Most of these talents have, in all my honest opinion, but Turner in particular has been kind of performing. He's had a couple of miserable games too, but the chances he's been given has actually gone fairly well. Price, on the other hand, not doing super well. Honestly, 657 average rating, but I'm willing to give him some time. And as I said, might just end up loaning him out because of his personality, to try and force development. But I think my philosophy is going to be going forwards that once they reach a potential of say 2.5 stars, that is when we're going to be taking them and making them basically a squad player, which is basically what the coach also agrees with, and give them some more time in the league games. And I think that is the way to develop. Aswell here too is doing really, really good already. So this guy could potentially become a very, very important part of the squad in the future. And who else? Restes, of course, is also developing still. Looking forward to seeing how what his value is going to end up at. He's currently valued at over 100 million. Duff, I think we took a look at. He too has actually been doing very well whenever we're giving him the chance. If we take a look here at his history, or rather his season stats. So he has actually had pretty good average ratings whenever he's gone onto the Premier League field, whenever he's gone into the Champions League. He's actually started a decent chunk of games, as you can see. And he has a good, extremely good assists, I say here. So he usually gets an assist a game, which is, well, not really. He has 2 assists. But he does feel dangerous when he moves upwards. He is nice to have. He has high crossing. So he could become a very, very good wing back because that's what we've been playing him as, a wing back. So I might hype this guy a little bit up, but he does look good in the games that I've seen. So I'm looking forward to seeing his development in particular. Might end up giving him more games than he should have, but I think that might be worth it. Jones there, again, isn't really developing too good, so we'll have to see what we do. Might loan them out, as I've said. But most of these guys, unless I'm planning to use them in the next game, are given at least under 21 time. But we'll have to see how we do in terms of developing them further. Now, Ferguson has been doing okay. A little bit downward here now on the arrows, but honestly, I think he's reached his potential, and basically now it's just rebalancing, getting rid of corners, getting rid of free kicks, getting rid of long throws, marking, anything that doesn't really benefit him as a striker. And honestly, that's the only thing we can do for him to develop. Now, but not here. I do want to mention, because I didn't actually earlier, he's actually been out this half of the season with a broken leg, as you can see. He There we go. A broken upper leg in August, start of August, and he's been out now for 5 months. So hopefully he'll be able to make his way back. I didn't actually know that they allowed him to get a bruised shin, but he is getting back into it. We'll have to see if he develops with what little time he has left. He's 22 years old. We might end up trying to cash in on him. We'll have to see. But for now, he's a really good squad option. So even though he did have that broken leg, I don't think we can do anything about it. It is just how it is sometimes. But yeah, it's been a good start to the season. We'll have to see what we do in terms of transfers for January. I don't have anyone in particular that I want to go for at the moment. So I'm a little bit unsure what we want to do here. We do have good goalies. As I said, we might just try and trade Verbruggen out for the new guy that's coming in. Try and develop him. We have basically three other talents coming in as well, so we'll have to see where we fit those in. If we keep Felipe, if we keep Milinkovic Savic, if we keep Kerkez, who's unhappy about his deal, we have a lot of players who basically complain a ton about the deals. And as you can see here, Szymanski isn't really happy with how much playtime I've given him. So he's become quite unhappy, and we'll be looking to offload him during this transfer window as well. So there is a bunch of problems right now that we have to deal with, but generally it hasn't had much of a negative impact on our dynamics. Had a bit of a negative impact on the club atmosphere, of course. The Amanda wants to start more games. Kerkez wants a new deal to reflect its ability. The two people who agree, though, are let's see here, who are they again? Bedbergen and Baldassani. Baldassani is also someone that we might actually sell. So generally here, I don't think we're gonna have much problems with Kerkez. I really wish that I could just say that you have a deal that has 3 years left on it. We're not gonna discuss any new deals. 3.5 years remaining. I do understand that it is a reputation thing in this game, but the fact that my teammates getting slowly wage budgeted to death is gonna be kind of bad. But we do have the financials to support it. I just find it as a very annoying thing when someone signs a contract and then comes back, signs a 5 year contract, comes back 6 months later and says, "I want a new contract." He's been complaining since before the summer. So even within his first year of contract, he was starting to complain. But I can understand it. He is a better player, but at the same time, if I can get away with it, I'm not gonna be agreeing to a new contract. Although he does have that annoying uh, minimum fee release clause, so we might want to deal with that. But as I said, it's been a good first half of the season. Let's see if we can keep that going. And I'm a little bit unsure how I'm gonna do this one in the future. The last episode became very long because we did win the league, but also because I added in some match moments. Let me know if you want to see more of those match moments. I think they do break up the videos a little bit, maybe make them feel a little bit better. But give me your opinion, how you feel about it, and hopefully I'll see you around next time. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.